Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Andy Nguyen, a customs tech enthusiast that's going to bring you another video on a budget TKL custom mechanical keyboard. Stay tuned. First and foremost, in terms of ethics, Monstargear did reach out because I did do a free review of their board prior, and I get to keep this board, all right? Will that affect my review? No. If you watch my streams, you watch my YouTube videos, and you read the descriptions, I'm brutally honest at all times because I'm trying to save you money, not help you waste money, all right? Let me unwrap it for all of its goodness. Check this out. So you're probably looking at this video because you're looking to get some kind of upgrade. I know there's a lot of affordable options, but they're all a little small. They're a 65% form factor, so you don't have the F-row. You do have the arrow keys, but it's kind of compressed in there, and you don't have your full navigation. So aside from the EK68 Aurora and the KBD67 Lite, let's go with the more traditional form factor, the TKL. So when you're starting out looking at keyboards, you look at KBDFans.com, and you see that they're selling a Tofu 60, Tofu 65. A step up from that is the KBD67. But going up from the KBD67, you have the KBD8X Mark II, which I still think is one of the best values for a TKL form factor board in the hobby. This board right here is supposed to compete against it. So the 8X is a top mount board, but it's pretty no frills. The weight has this font on there that some people may not like. This board right here is a sandwich mount. What that means is there's one screw, well, eight screws that go through the case and compress the plate into place, and that's what holds it together. Does that make it worse than top mount? No, but it does make it a little bit stiffer. To be honest, if you're using an aluminum plate or a brass plate, that stiffness is not something you're gonna feel. We also have to mention that Novel Keys did release the NK87, which is the TKL version of the NK65EE and NK65 V2. That board is pretty good, especially since it has screw-in stabilizers. The problem with NK65EE was that it uses plate mount stabs, which they don't sound great. And of course, Canon Keys offers a DevastatingTKL, which is a burger mount board, which is just top mount with some O-rings. That's pretty good. What if you don't want that look? It's a little bit chunkier. Maybe you want something cleaner. We got here the Monstargear K80. So we got our top mount. We have our brass weight. So the brass weight is definitely not on the Devastating So if you want that extra little pop with the brass weight, K80 is the way to go. So it's a heavy board. 105 ounces, 6.6 pounds. Holy! So this board you can do sandwich mount or gasket mount, and I definitely recommend the gasket mount add-on option, or else you might as well just get a KBD8X. So I did review a Monstargear board before, the XO, and I really didn't like it because of the plate mount stabilizer. That was the only complaint though. So this board, taking in screw-in stabilizers, thank God that these manufacturers and designers are finally implementing them in the affordable boards. It really ticks off all the boxes for me for an affordable TKL. If you're one of those people that are stuck with plate mount stabs, there is a way to upgrade them. You can buy some upgraded plate mount stabs. Various manufacturers have made them, so check them out. They're a little bit harder to find, but they are there. So if you look at the quality, the ano is pretty smooth. It's a little bit fingerprinty, which typically happens with a black ano. I like the rounded edges. There's no ano mismatch right here. I think it's pretty solid. Please ignore the finishing issues on the PVD brass weight because this has been used and abused and I just got it at the end of its life. Between this board and the Monstargear XO, I do not remember any glaring issues. It's a pretty solid board. Of course, if you compare it to a Keycult, of course the price is way different, even if you compare retail to retail, as if you did win the raffle, which is like 0.000001%. The screws seem high quality, everything's tight, nothing's rattling, nothing's shaken. So as for the design, I do like the rounded edges. Makes it feel comfortable to pick up. I do like this kind of lip here so you can pick it up. You can move it around the desk easily, which you will want to do because the TKL is a pretty big boy board, right? This is going to take up a lot of real estate on your desk. So if you're working on something, you need to take some notes, you need to sign some papers, those business documents, you might want to move it around. So sometimes when you have that seamless edge right here, if you have a seamless edge, you can't really lift it up. It's a little tough, especially if it's a TKL and it's kind of heavy. That gets annoying. There is such thing as too heavy. And I didn't mention it in the Iron 180 video before, but there is a full brass bottom version. That's 10 pounds. It's a little much. I can deal with 4, 5, maybe 6 pounds, but past that, I need to go to the gym again. I didn't get the gasket mount upgrade, but if you're curious as to what that'll do to the sound and feel, the sound should feel less sharp, I believe. I remember doing gummy O-ring or burger mount upgrades to boards that aren't designed for it. It kind of takes the edge off of the sound, especially if you're using a clacky or high-pitched switch. In terms of feel, the aluminum plate's gonna really govern the feel. Whether you do gasket mount or sandwich mount, it's gonna feel about the same because the aluminum plate is pretty stiff. This is not one of those boards that has a flexible aluminum plate. This is the aluminum unit right here. It's pretty heavy. They also have a PC unit that is in stock right now. So the aluminum may have to get secondhand, but the PC is available for purchase directly from Monstargear. So in terms of sound and feel, I gotta compare it to the 8X Mark II. I think they go head to head, which makes sense because they're both around the same $300 price. KBD8X is $329 and shipping is about $20. The K80 is $300, but the shipping from Korea is a little bit more expensive. Shipping out of Korea is like 50, 60 bucks. So you gotta take that into account. There are domestic vendors and partners, so you can get it in the United States with a little bit cheaper shipping. That's gonna vary depending on who has what stock and when. Is sandwich mount bad? I don't think so. I just built the TX66 on stream and we put those banana splits in there. It sounded money. It doesn't have that kind of allure, the flex of the gasket mount or the gummy O-ring mount or anything like that, nothing too new. But in terms of a keyboard, man, I really think that a good top mount, a good sandwich mount still has its place in the community. One of my favorite boards I built in the very beginning was the TX87 SE, and it really did sound like a Jane. Of course, I was new and maybe my ears were broken and they weren't really trained just yet. But for a beginner, I was like, okay, TX87 SC with some linears in brass. And I tried the very similar build in a higher end board. And I was like, this sounds pretty close to each other. The feel, okay, the feel was way better on the Jane, but if you're just chasing for sound, there's cheaper options for you. I have to really talk about what makes this different from the 8X. There's no branding, right? There's no branding, it's smooth. I like the rounded edges of the weights. It really makes it a little bit more polished so that it doesn't feel so cheap. The 8X is a solid board, but it doesn't really win any style points. I feel like this board with the rounded edges right here, easy to pick up. The side profile is pretty nice. Rounded weight, really elevated a little bit. Makes it a little bit nicer, makes it a little bit more end game for someone who's just looking for something affordable. Another thing about the design is that with the K80, you can actually get a Hotswap PCB. I know that some beginners in the hobby are still testing out switches. They don't know what kind of springs they want. They don't know if their lubing is perfect or not, or they don't know if they want linears, tactiles, or even clickies. So having a hot swap option in the K80 is nice. I've had some people commission me to Milmax and 8X because they still wanted that budget TKL, but they wanted to have hot swap, and that's the only way to go. So having hot swap in the K80 is really nice. This is a pretty standard PCB. There's no F13 key, so it's nothing fancy like that. But I think this is a pretty solid option for someone that has maybe 300, 400 bucks and wants a nice solid TKL that feels premium, feels heavy in the hand, and really isn't too interested in entering a group buy for a board that's $400 to $600 to $700. The moment you're waiting for, here's a sound test. I used Cherry screw-in stabilizer. It was included in the package. I'm not sure if it's in the production unit or the retail unit. And I used lubed and filled Mauves. Lubed and filled Mauves are one of my favorite switches. I don't know if it sounds a little bit deeper than the alpaca. Probably not. They're all JWK. But I used 205G0. I used TX films, 0.15 millimeter, and TX spring, 65 gram, 14 millimeters. If you're curious as to the exact specs, let's give it a listen. All right, my final thoughts. I think the K80 is a solid option for someone getting into the hobby. If they wanted something bigger than an NK65 or a KBD67 or even an XHT Aurora, something with a more familiar form factor at an affordable price, having a gasket mount option, having a hot swap option, having a brass weight for the flex, even if you don't see it, You know it's there, it adds to the heft, it adds to the weight, it feels more quality, it keeps you satisfied longer. I can't wink, I should never do that again. The KBD8X, if you want to go that route, you can save a little bit of money, 20, 30 bucks in shipping maybe, and you can O-ring mount or gummy O-ring mount and kind of mod the board that way. It's not designed for it, so I can't attest to the actual benefits of that, but Monstargear, especially with the upgrade to the screw-in stabs instead of just the plate mount stabs like the XO had, it's definitely worth a look. I think the aesthetics edge out the 8X just a little bit. At the end of the day, it's a hobby of preference. If you think it's worth it, or if you think it's not, it's up to you. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any questions about this board or any other boards. Make sure you catch me on stream. I am now a full-time content creator, at least for a little bit. We'll see where the universe takes us. So please consider subscribing. Please consider clicking the notification bell. Make sure you watch me on Twitch. I'm streaming Mondays, Wednesdays 5:30, Saturdays 10 a.m. and we will be adding more streams to the schedule. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, let's hang out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.